He was standing trial before his peers inside a court of law in Athens, Greece. During this momentous event, he said something that was very unusual. It was something every founder, CEO, or executive director of a nonprofit organization would be wise to consider. Well, what was it? The charge against him was for impiety and corruption of the youth. This was somewhere around 399 BC, or maybe it was 398 BC. I don't know. I wasn't there. But his student, Plato, was. And being the good scribe, he documented Socrates' retort in the historical text known simply as the Apology. Socrates pled under the canopy of the Stoa Basileus, or the king's portico, his case with the definitive words, quote, "I do not think I know what I do not know," end quote. Or as said in a more modern-day translation in the infamous, playful, and affectionate expression of Ygritte in Game of Thrones, "You know nothing, Jon Snow." Here's what this means to you as the leader of a growing nonprofit. It means it's okay not to know. And the more we know what we don't know, the more we can know what we didn't know. Or quite simply put, this means we really know a lot by knowing we don't know a lot. However, we do know more than those who don't know that they don't know. In fact, this understanding shows that you have great strength, raw courage, and high leadership qualities, all three of which are essential to your role as the visionary and vanguard of the organization that you lead. That's why it's always good to challenge the truth. To seek the truth you may not be wishing to find. Once you understand the reality you are dealing with, or the perception of reality, as I teach my university students, the more you can build a strategy to deal with the uncertainty of the moment. And as we all know, there are always moments in our lives. Knowing all of this can boost your courage to act because you know in your elevated position that strategy without execution is worthless. One of my favorite examples of this courageous approach to not knowing what you don't know so that you can know what you need to know took place sitting tightly on a black couch in a high-rise office building. The three of us, that is the nonprofit's EVP, COO, and me as the contracted consultant, were asked to evaluate an important matter facing the CEO. In hindsight, the image I see is somewhat like that of Mizaru, Kizaru, and Iwazaru all lined up on a bench. You know, those three wise monkeys that see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Despite the imagery, this was a serious affair and there was no monkeying around about it. It was in fact a bit intense because we all had different solutions to the same issue. Fortunately, one of us had the best approach. And I'm glad to say that they all listened to the wisest logic and reasoning at hand. The leader was intelligent and faith-filled in all of his actions. This was evidenced by his frequently assembling us for three unmated reasons. First, he was intellectually curious, and he had the rooted confidence in his own personal competence to be so. In fact, he wasn't intimidated at all by not knowing. He clearly understood he would know more from listening to the observations, perspectives, and recommendations of others than by just acting on his own. The second reason he gathered us on that leather couch was because he understood what was the best way to get our buy-in to his thinking. He knew that it was to first get our involvement. He had learned that commitment comes best through involvement. Thirdly, his experience had taught him that once you think you have all the dots connected, you usually don't. There was always something missed, unexpected, or purely unimaginable. Plus, he knew something that all wise nonprofit leaders should emulate, and that is knowing that people will do more when you recognize them for what they are already doing well. He rewarded us, his trusted internal staff and external advisor, by acknowledging our actions when we watched his back. or protected his six when borrowing a similar military-born phrase. The more he recognized our, quote, who's minding the store, end quote, as legendary Stanley Marcus of Neiman Marcus would say, the more we watched the store on his behalf. We readily explored unseen dangers and protected him from the daily threats of running an international nonprofit organization. His ruthless objective in seeking wise counsel was validated for us as he comfortably observed the reflection of his own readiness or his unreadiness. Witnessing his self-awareness about what he knew or he didn't know helped us all. For me, it opened the door as his independent advisor to provide deliberate feedback and alternative advice. It also made it possible for me to act as a truth teller who showed him the truth as I saw it. That is, when he wanted the truth, because it was always his call to make and not mine. My job was to give him different perspectives, options, and opportunities. There was never any question about him making the final call once he had his information. Together, his internal team and I were part of his senior level support system. Collectively, we delivered reliable capabilities that supported his willingness to learn. It also cleared a path for his openness to greater understanding. He fully embraced with humility that he didn't have to always be the smartest person in the room. He knew he just had to be in the room with the smartest people. There is great insight in knowing you don't have to know it all. Socrates further alluded to this when he added, quote, "The only true wisdom is knowing you know nothing," end quote. In closing, with this kind of strategic counsel standing by your side, you can be better prepared, able, and confident in understanding your constituency's perceptions, patterns, and preferences. With these key discoveries, you can wisely change what you need to change, build what you want to build, and save what you must not lose. When you take these steps towards finding and building a senior support team of both inside and outside counsel, you may be assured that you can take comfort in not having to know about every road that leads to the same castle. Seeking the assistance of a reliable guide who has been down those roads before bears the markings of a wise nonprofit leader. When a dependable truth teller who will walk with you and help guide the way, you will find yourself on a better path, and maybe best of all, not having to travel it alone. Until the next issue of Castle Roads, travel well. E. Paul.